Welcome to Checkpoint. Bigger, bolder, better. We tonight have the chair of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Philip Kinisu, fairly new in his job, so we thank him for making the time to be with us today. Please remember to leave us your feedback on the hashtag Checkpoint. We're running that Twitter poll right now, so please do give us your thoughts. So far, not so good, but let's speak to him first. I think he's a man of hope and optimism, having put himself forward for this job. Thanks for making the time tonight.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Great. So, let's start by talking about when you were putting in the application for this job and what was running through your mind, the thoughts. You were treading on ground that was not so sacred for those that have come before you. Mwao, Ringera, PLO, and Mumo Matemu have all essentially been pushed out, if you like.
That's right.
What were your thoughts coming into this job?
I think there's two parts to the answer to that question, Yvonne. First of all, as any right-thinking professional, having done a long period of professional work, I got to a point where I believed that that experience, my capabilities, are such that they can benefit this country, which, as a Kenyan, I know is facing a severe challenge around corruption. So let's put it that there was in me a belief that I've got something to offer to actually help tackle this issue. Now, in terms of the thoughts going through my mind about the difficulty of where I was headed, basically it is an issue of saying, this is Kenya, and if somebody doesn't step forward and apply themselves to this challenge, then where are we headed? And I believe I'm as qualified as anybody else to be able to come forward and actually want to tackle it. Now, the other point you raise about fear that since the predecessors have gone, and ceremoniously as such, I think that in position now, I see their experience as a source of learning. We can learn lessons from what went before now, and actually apply those lessons to be more successful perhaps than we were before.
Okay, interesting that you say that. So where do you think they failed? Or what do you think they didn't do right that you will succeed in?
I don't want to start casting aspersions on people's track record because I wasn't on the inside of that. I haven't done any research to determine scientifically why they failed. But there are basic lessons we can pick up from there. For example, if as a commission we didn't have teamwork, if we had people pulling in different directions, then we're going to fail. If, for example, you have the kind of tensions that characterized the Secretariat versus the Commission, we are going to fail. If, for example, you haven't got one strong voice in this country talking about getting rid of corruption, and we as EACC are not championing that voice, we are going to fail. So it's those kinds of experiences and lessons we've picked and we're going to be applying in this time around. Yes.
Surely it takes more than teamwork because essentially the circumstances at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission remain the same. You, even coming in, have complained about the number of investigators you have, the personnel, the resources, the equipment that you're using that you claim is outdated. None of that has essentially changed, and which is what many experts say is what's holding the EACC. So while you talk about teamwork and speaking with one voice, there are some serious fundamental issues that have not changed at the EACC. So how will your tenure be different?
You won't actually think that half the solution to issues is knowing what the issues are. Now we know we have got difficulties around resources, whether it's manpower, whether it's equipment, even office space.
But surely the previous chairs knew this as well.
We're going to do our best to make sure that that is addressed.
Okay. How are you going to do that? Do you want to be more specific? There's the issue of funding,
yes,
which is through Parliament. There's the issues, and we'll get into some of the other issues to do with conduct. But, it seems rather lofty that you know what the issues are, but every chair coming before you has said exactly the same thing you're saying here.
Personally, I'm going to be engaging where decisions are made. I'm going to be calling on collecting the dividend around political will. I'm going to be engaging institutions that are in the decision chain, whether it's National Assembly for budget allocation or the executive in terms of having expressed the will to fight corruption. I want to go and collect that dividend and apply it for the good of the Kenyans. And I will do that actively.
And you will. And you do know, Mr. Chair, we'll hold you to some of these as we continue to go forward.
In fact, you'll see me doing exactly that engagement.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the issues, and you've mentioned some of them, talking about the perceived push and pull between the Secretariat and the Commission, and indeed some of the decisions that have been made by the Secretariat. Starting with the decision to give the list of shame to the President last year. We're coming close to the first year anniversary of that, which was even cited in a recent court case against Ngilu and Kamau. And then could you talk to us about that and you know, what's going on now that the Commission is fully constituted, as it were?
Yes. Actually, I mean, more generally about the issue of apparent tension between the Secretariat and the Commissioners. I think that, from what I now understand, has come about by the mistaken interpretation of what the law says about how we should fight corruption within that institution. It's come about by apparent attempts to create different centers of power within the Commission. And the court case you just referred to now, for all other areas that it covered, it has shed very, very good light on how we should be conducting ourselves. And I'll be leading our team to make sure that that conduct does not create the kind of tensions which have given the kind of misleading impressions about who should decide on what and who should do what.
All right, but then there's also the issue about independence of your commission. So when we see the CEO of the commission giving a list to the President, the President tables that in Parliament and then proceeds to direct your independent commission to investigate within 60 days. And then we take a look at the other one that that raised eyebrows even further, and this was the clearing of Ann Waiguru, and this was written by the CEO, by the way, when you were already in office. Does the Secretariat respect the Commissioners?
Those are valid observations, Yvonne, and I think without the benefit of the detail behind all of those happenings, the public and you would be justified in making those observations. Now, I would like to say that EACC cannot succeed if it is not independent, and the public is justified in looking at an EACC that appears to be and is actually independent. Now, the courts came in with a very helpful ruling just the other day, I mean, the same case you referred to, and did make comments to be directional in terms of how we all behave. In certain positions, I think people do get carried away with the responsibilities they have. Perhaps they lose sight of the kind of conduct they should have. So I would admit that it's justifiable for the public to be saying, you are an independent commission, your independence is ingrained in the Constitution. Why would you behave differently?
Right. Did the CEO inform you of this letter that he was writing to Kinyua to essentially clear Waiguru? You were in office in January. This letter was written in February. Were you aware of this letter before it was written?
I think fact is that those were internal procedures culminating from actions that had started before we got in. And the way I've explained it to myself up until now, and I would like to share the same with you, is that the letter was written on the momentum of actions that had started before we got into office.
But surely once you got this, wouldn't the Secretariat defer to the Commissioners and to the Chair to be the ones to start to take decisions on this matter?
That's an accurate observation.
Did you speak to Halake Wako after he wrote this letter? I wonder what
I would
fly
like
on the wall for that conversation.
I would like to kind of defer the kind of details about what has gone on the inside of the Commission.
All right, but it is a matter of public perception. Don't you think you want to clear the air now and assure Kenyans that the Secretariat and the Commissioners are speaking with one voice? We didn't hear much from the Commissioners, from yourself, regarding this letter until just the other day when you went before the parliamentarians and said, indeed, there was a mistake. Was this conversation had behind the scenes?
What I would like to actually assure Kenyans is that there need not be a distinction between the Secretariat and the Commission. Don't forget what the law says about what EACC is. EACC is the Commissioners, who then employ individuals first in the position of Secretary, CEO, and technical staff. So that distinction between Secretariat and Commission actually shouldn't be there.
So what you're saying, when the Secretariat speaks, it's the Commission that has spoken?
If he speaks, it's a Commission that speaks. But then...
so when he spoke and wrote the letter to Kinyua,
as I said, this was...
The Commissioners were also... This was done when you were in office.
This
so
was a time... I did explain it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make myself any clearer. The letter was a culmination of activities that had started before with the commissioners came on board.
Okay.
And the way that I've basically interpreted what happened then is that this happened as part of that, the momentum of those activities, which did not involve the new commissioners.
Okay, all right.
And my explaining about the clearing having been an error, having been not based on all the evidence that should have been looked at, I think that captured that issue.
Okay, all right,
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Stay with me.
Sure.
The chair of the commission, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, as we continue to discuss the war on graft. But we just want to take a moment to update you on news coming out of Ivory Coast. Unidentified gunmen have killed at least 5 people at a beach resort in southern Ivory Coast, according to officials. The assailants fired on beachgoers in the town of Grand Bassam, about 40 kilometers east of the country's commercial capital, Abidjan. The resort is popular with locals and foreigners. Security forces have been sent to the scene. Ivory Coast was seen as a model of stability in West Africa until a civil war erupted in 2002. The conflict pitted the mainly Muslim north against the largely Christian south. Since then, peace deals have alternated with renewed violence. We now want to speak to a Kenyan who's living in Ivory Coast. I believe we have Pauline. Do we have Pauline? Yes. She's a Kenyan who's living in Ivory Coast. About that. Pauline, good evening, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Could you tell us what the scene was like? Where were you and what was your experience with this attack?
Yvonne, to be honest, I live in Abidjan, which is like 40 minutes away from Grand Bassam. And today being a Sunday, we are actually indoors, we are not going to work. So it is information. I just happened to read it from the news. I just happened to get it from the security department of our bank. So I really don't have much details about it. But so far, the news is that we have 12 people already shot dead, including a 5-year-old boy.
All right, tell me, obviously you're not near the Grand Bassam, but tell us what the atmosphere is like in Abidjan. What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? Talked to other Kenyans in the Ivory Coast to see if they're safe.
Well, we just have got to speak to some of our colleagues, amongst each other, just trying to find out if everybody is fine. But given that it's a weekend and it's on Sunday, it's really a bit difficult to be able to get hold of everybody. But what the situation is like, there's a lot of tension. There's tension in the air because this happened, and something of the sort hasn't happened like here in quite some time now. So there's tension in the air. But so far so good. So far the Kenyans that we've gotten to speak to are all safe and it's coming wherever they are.
All right, thank you very much. That's Pauline Aseka Akolo, who works for the African Development Bank in Abidjan. Was just explaining to us the situation in the capital of Ivory Coast right now. That attack will continue to update you now. 10 people dead so far. Let's carry on with our discussion right back home, and we're focusing on the war on graft. So keep your comments coming in. Remember to use the hashtag checkpoint as we speak with the chair of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Philip Kinisu. Let's turn our attention to another big scandal that Kenyans are grappling with at the moment, and that is Chicken Gate. And for this, we have seen, Britain jail 2 officials for that. And then it's only 2 years later that momentum begins to pick up on this case here in Kenya. Could you update us with the nature of the investigations at the moment?
Thanks, Yvonne. Now, this particular case has been running in the UK since 2005, when the authorities there kind of picked up the suspicions and started the investigations. Now, Kenya have kind of gotten onto the issue, as you mentioned, over the last 2 years, as the case has matured over there in the UK. Now, what Kenyans need to appreciate is that the UK's jurisdiction and our own have different laws, and we have different standards, and in terms of jailing people, or rather convicting people. There are procedures which apply over there and which also apply over here, and individuals have to have their day in court. And have to have their day with due process before they are taken forward. Now, I should say that, and I've actually said this before, that the last of the informations that we needed in order for us to conclude our own work here was only received